Welcome back to the Tired Ear Hanger. Happy Friday, everybody. I hope everybody is doing well. Today I want to talk about a concept called collection envy. Now, this is a perfectly healthy and natural thing for all collectors to go through. I experience this. I am subject to collector envy too. But I'm going to talk about the positives. It is actually a good thing. And then there's some negatives, and I'm going to tell you how to turn the negatives into positives. But overall, collection envy is something that we all deal with, and we're going to discuss this mostly about Masterpiece Transformers. Going to include a few things that aren't MP Transformers, but it's still Friday, so we mostly talk about Masterpiece. Coming up! So I used to actually keep my stuff in boxes, my Masterpiece stuff, most of it in boxes, only opened a few, and eventually I started displaying because I saw other people's stuff. But I have to say, that was a bit of collection envy, and I'm going to get into all of these topics, but envious of how other people display their collections, in 2018 I went ahead and got into displaying my own collection in a proper way, and it made this channel a whole lot more fun to be able to kind of show how that would grow over time. But I'm also very impressed with a lot of these collections that have been submitted to me, and it's really easy to watch these collection videos and get a little bit envious of this and have that collection envy that's going on, but you could take that collection envy and turn it into a positive. So let's talk about the first positive of this. First positive, you can set yourself up with some goals. And the thing is, there's a lot of things to think about when you have goals, when you're collecting Masterpiece. When you're looking at $100 plus figures and you want to set yourself some goals and you start looking at other people's collections, there's a lot to look at, a lot to think about, a lot of things to consider, especially if you're new to the game. But even if you're old to the game and you see some other people doing things different than you and you're a little envious of this, well, it's good to ask questions. Sometimes you got to get in there and you've got to ask, what is that figure? Who made that figure? Where did it come from? And a lot of times people love talking about this stuff, and they'll even tell you where they got it, or sometimes they're in the know where one's for sale and stuff like that. So it's really good to have collection envy that gets you over the top to start talking to people, interacting with other collectors, and getting ideas. And it's all about ideas and sharing of ideas here to enhance your own collection. So use that collection envy to better your own collection. I have been collecting for a long time, and I know that a lot of other people have been collecting for a long time, but I don't even know all of the characters or all of the companies that made all of the different characters when it comes to other people's collections. And there's some unique, interesting things going on out there. There's some items that have been made in the past that haven't really been remade or even one up just yet, and it would be kind of interesting to add those pieces to your collection. Now, sometimes those are get pricey, so they're rare and hard to find, but other times they're actually pretty affordable. But if it helps enhance your collection, it doesn't hurt to ask. So the next thing would be actually learning about other toy lines or things that you forgot. It helps you remember other toy lines. And so with that, your collection envy, I'll be honest and admit that Michael Mercy on his YouTube channel, he actually put me over the top to collect some of these other toy lines that I've been kind of keeping at arm's length because he made them look so good on his videos. And the reality is I'm very happy that I made the plunge when I did. Some of them are too expensive now, but I have to admit, Michael Mercy and his collection, I've got a lot of collection envy for that. But of course, this 35 years of him nonstop collecting and procuring his collection has gotten him to the point he is now. He actually is pretty avid in Masterpiece Transformers. I didn't have a picture of his Masterpiece collection, but when I think of him, I think of retro more than modern. Also, this is more of a Masterpiece type of video talking about Masterpiece Transformers, but it's kind of interesting to see somebody who goes deep on certain characters. You go deep on characters and they get different scales, which this appears to be 3 different companies making the same character, which is basically an Omega Supreme recolor into some Guardian robot there, which looks amazing, looks fantastic, that is awesome, looks really good. And so with this, starts to get you some ideas for other options that are out there other than just Masterpiece. And maybe when you see other people display this stuff, you put you over the top for getting something that you're wanting to consider. Next positive to collection envy is display ideas. I will have to put a huge shout out to Bobby Skullface. I think that out of all of the collections I have seen, his backgrounds, his collection display, is top notch. And I have to say that it wasn't that way with the Transformers years ago. He was actually working really hard on the Star Wars, then he moved to the Transformers, but he did a phenomenal job. Just mind blowing. I am impressed every time I see any one of these displays that he's put together. It's fantastic. On his own channel, he does show how he does it. It's a tremendous amount of work, time, effort, and planning, but he is more or less an artist at heart, and with that, he does have a lot of skill, and he says it took him a while to get there, but he's there, and it shows in his collection. I think a lot of people have been influenced by other collectors showing their collection, and that level of envy has gotten them to say, you know what, I can do that, and I can do that even better. Or I have some ideas to make my display better for me. So I see a lot of this a lot of the time. And when viewers send their pictures in to me, I am very honored to be able to show them on the channel. But also with that, I steal some of their ideas too. I like to steal a few of the ideas. I'm probably not as good or talented as these people, but I still use their ideas. The next thing about Collection Envy, you see something that's just amazing and it really blows your mind and you're like, hey, I want to emulate this. So you start to get an understanding of the hardware you're going to need, the displays you need the setup that you're going to need, the space you're going to need. And I think one of the things that's a barrier for a lot of people is space. So when you look at a collection that looks amazing and you're thinking, I can't fit that in my area, and then you look at another person's collection that's made it happen and you think, well, where did they fit this in? How did they make this work? How did they get the space for this? And then you say, well, I'm envious of this person because they have all this space. But you look at it from the other angle and you say, they made it work. They took the space that they had and they made it work. And they made it look amazing. So Collection Envy could help you start looking around and saying, I could make that work here, there, or somewhere different, or in a different fashion, different way. We all have our own set of circumstances and space allocations, all that kind of stuff. But getting the thought process and seeing other people do amazing things will inspire you. Next thing I want to talk about is getting more enjoyment out of your collection. So you may have some envy of other people's collections. Make sure you stop and look and think what you have. Enjoy and appreciate what you have. And if them displaying their stuff makes you want to display your stuff, then you could get more enjoyment out of it. Or there's other things that I've seen, which I've talked about in the past, where people have one shelf and they just cycle things out every month or two. And that's another way to do it. But I gotta say, getting the enjoyment out of your own collection is how you can take your envy of somebody else's collection and channel it into your own. So there's also a concept of just enjoying someone else's collection from afar. Just looking at it, appreciating it, and going on, that's also a thing. Another thing that sort of happens with this Collection Envy is you start to further your own addiction. So maybe you only collect Masterpiece Transformers, then you start getting into some other things, which it's good and it's bad, as pluses and as minuses. But I've got to say that you can drive a lot of enjoyment out of collecting something, maybe something different, and taking a break with what your main collection is to do a side collection and seeing someone else display it very well that convinced you to go into that realm. It's more fun to go back to your main collection when you've kind of taken a mental break for a while, working on something else. That makes you enjoy it even more, your Masterpiece Transformer collection, right? So we talked about the positives. Now we really haven't gotten into the negatives. One of the negatives is when you see other people's collections and maybe you feel like some of the pieces that they have in their collection are out of your price range. You'll never be able to afford them, or you missed the boat on them and all those kinds of things. I have to say one of the things is HasLab Unicron. It's not Masterpiece. And at the time it came out and I was advocating for it, I was telling everybody, get it now or it's going to be $2,000 later. Well, they're $2,000 now. Who knows how much more expensive they're going to get over time. But with that, you can learn from these experiences. When you understand stuff like these HasLabs or limited time kind of things, that if you really want it, don't pass on it. And that's kind of one of the lessons that can be learned, a positive that can come out of this. But then again, you might find someone that wants to trade something you have that you kind of tired of, and maybe they feel like it's too big or something. There are situations where you can afford this. If you work hard enough, look hard enough, and ask enough people, you might be able to work it out. Collection envy can also help you start to take action with your own collection. So a lot of times you look at what other people are doing and you don't think as highly of what you've got going on with yourself. Well, you know what? You can take action. Everybody could take action when it comes to their collection. And I did that in 2018. I took action because I saw a lot of amazing things going on and I wanted to sort of maybe keep up, I guess you could say. I did kind of keep up, but I wanted to further my enjoyment of my collection. And I'm so glad that I did with setting up a display. But one of the things that I realized was I wanted to sell off some of my old and get some new. And that's something that I started a while back, a long time. I went a long time collecting and never selling anything. And I was like, but I got some stuff I don't really care for anymore. So taking action is it's a negative, but it could turn into a positive. Since I'm kind of in this toy show range here of pictures, I do want to discuss that there seem to be more toy shows now than ever before. Ever before. We see a boom of collecting in 2020, and then that was the same time as a shutdown where there was less toy shows going on. And now we're seeing a resurgence and a boom, and I don't know how long it's going to last. I don't know if we're going to see these boom for a long time. But with that, take advantage of it because I think a lot of deals can be had at toy shows because most vendors don't want to take the stuff home with them. Most people selling at toy shows that are vendors that are mostly collectors just want to get rid of their stuff and generate a little bit of cash to buy new stuff. So with that, toy shows are great and they're usually the best place to find the best deal, especially on older items. So the next negative of collector envy is dwelling on an item or several items that you missed the boat on. And we did kind of talk about with Unicron, but learning this is don't pass on things like this in the future. It's better to buy something that you know you're going to want at the retail price. Now, there is the clearance chicken, which is the new term that Nerdzoic started throwing around, but it's actually true. Some people try to do that with Masterpiece Transformers, and it will happen. There will be some Masterpiece Transformers on sale. I've overpaid for stuff in the past, and I've gotten really good deals in the past. So both ways, it goes both ways. But I've got to say, one lesson to learn from collection envy is do not pass on a decent deal on something that you know you're really going to want. The next thing about collection envy is reprioritizing. So it's negative because you look at other people's stuff. I hear this every day. Masterpiece collector saying, I wish I would have done Legends, but I'm too deep into Masterpiece. And that's something I hear every day in the comments. And the truth is, you could reprioritize today and just switch over to Legends. Sell off your least favorite Masterpiece, help fund a small beginning to a Legends collection. And I did that. I jumped in, I bought someone's whole collection of Legends and just started from there. I picked up where they left off. For whatever reason, they jumped out of it. I picked up where they left off and just kept moving. And so with that, you can do that if you want to reprioritize. And a lot of this collection envy, it's real easy to be envious of a Legends collection that looks amazing because it's growing really fast. There's a lot of options out there, more options than Masterpiece in some cases. And so with that, I do understand that envy, but you can take action, you can reprioritize, and you can make it happen. The last negative of collection envy is people saying they can't afford something. I can't afford it. I could never afford a collection like someone else has. And with that, I want to say you can save up for it. You can prioritize it. Or we did talk about reprioritization, but you can also start looking to the future. So a lot of the times, people have great collections now, but future releases will enhance it. There'll be better figures and all of that kind of stuff. So instead of dwelling on the past, it's always good to look to the future. And sometimes things in the past don't ever get improved upon, but most of the time they do. And we also cover some ground that's never been covered before, like CityBots. But whether or not this FT40 ever comes out, would be nice to know that you could afford it when it does. So I'm curious what you guys think about this collection envy. Have you suffered from this ailment? Have you taken any of this collection envy negatives, turned them into positives? Has it helped influence you in the future? Are you a bit salty about some other people's collections? And if so, you can use my tips to turn that around into a positive, make lemonade out of those lemons. And remember, it takes a long time to build a collection. Just like Michael French at Retroblasting, and he always says he's been a lifelong collector. He technically never stopped collecting. So when people look at his amazing collection and they're envious of a lot of stuff going on, he likes to point out that it took a long time. Like and subscribe. Ted Hanger out.